Good afternoon. I'm RUBEN TREVISO with the American GI Forum. We have the fortune today to have the Chief Deputy Director, Stephanie Stone, of Los Angeles County, to tell us about what's taking place in LA County for veterans. Stephanie.
Yeah. Good morning.
You've been approximately on board for a year.
Right.
And I think Patriotic Hall was revised and rebuilt last winter.
Right.
What's taking place now?
Well, first of all, I want to just share that I'm with the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, and Bob Hope Patriotic Hall is our home. It was renovated by the Board of Supervisors at a cost of nearly $50 million with the idea that it was going to become a one-stop shop, or even better description would be that it would be all things for all veterans. So our mandate is to create relationships and to bring them into the hall to meet the needs of the veterans of our community, their family, the military and their family. And so what that means has been, for the last 6 months or so, we've been creating relationships with not only our former tenants, the veteran service organizations, such as the American Legion Post 8 and AMVETS, Vietnam Vets of America, Filipino Veterans of America. We're bringing all of our original tenants back in, and then we've also created a relationship with U.S. vets. Through a bidding process, they won the opportunity to come into the hall and to bring their partners to meet all those other needs around transitional housing for homeless vets, training, education, employment, and more. But those services are going to be offered by other partners in the community, whether it's EDD, the VA healthcare system, VBA, which is the Veteran Affairs benefit side. All those organizations and agencies will be making their way in. And the last piece that I'm really excited about is creating a relationship with the LA Bar Association and the Superior Courts. We recognize that a lot of our veterans, young and old, have legal issues, and oftentimes they represent themselves. So what we're doing at the hall is creating opportunities for veterans to come in and get advisements from the different groups, whether they're attorneys working through the Bar Association or at the Self-Help Center. They literally have their attorneys and their paralegals coming in to give workshops on how to go through the different processes of the family courts.
How many veterans are in Los Angeles County?
We have approximately 400,000, and I say approximately because that's based off of a census that was taken a few years ago. And the challenge with that is that not all veterans self-identify. For a number of reasons, but one of the most recognizable groups based off of past surveys has been the female veterans. We know that 10 to 12% of our population are female veterans, and yet we don't see the numbers on our census. We often don't see them within the VA system or in any other veteran resource opportunities. They don't self-identify. They don't often don't know their own benefits because they don't identify. People don't reach out to them and share their benefits that they may be eligible for. So we know we count 400,000, recognizing that there may be more that we don't know of.
I've been told that female veterans don't consider themselves veterans, but they will say that they served in the armed forces.
That's true. Oftentimes what we'll find is it may be generational, but we've even seen younger vets that have come back that will say that they don't consider themselves veterans. Sometimes it's because they didn't serve in combat. Our younger vets oftentimes have seen combat. It can be for a number of reasons. But whatever it is, what we've tried to do is throughout the system, working with our partners in other government agencies, with the civilian sectors and the nonprofit organizations, to ask the question, have you served, but instead of saying, are you a veteran?
What programs do you have for female veterans?
Well, we're excited about that because in the past we didn't have any any programs that were specifically designed for the female veterans. I'm going to take a step back and just share that we have new leadership in LA County with the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. Under the leadership of retired General Ruth Wong and myself as the Deputy Secretary, I'm a retired Navy corpsman, we recognized that there wasn't any particular program designed for the female vets. And so we've developed a program based off of a survey that was taken through the State of California Department of Veteran Affairs. Them and the Commission on Women and Girls put out a survey a few years ago and asked women veterans throughout the state what were their needs, what were their concerns. And looking at that, we've developed a program. It's a year-long series of events to draw women in so that they know and they will learn about their benefits, the resources, and all of our partners in the community.
How many homeless veterans are in Los Angeles County?
I don't know that number.
I've been told it's approximately 6,000. So such a large number. I believe Los Angeles County has the largest concentration of homeless veterans in the country. What programs do we have for them?
I apologize. I think that what you'll see is, what you'll see is that within Los Angeles, we are the capital. Can I start that again? Mm. Here in Los Angeles, we have the title of having the largest number of veterans in our county than any other county in the United States. We also hold the title for having the most female veterans. I should say we're number 2 in the United States, number 1 in the state. Homeless vets, the largest number. One of the challenges that we face again is that we have to find them, and we do the homeless count every year and go through volunteers, and maybe many of your viewers will have participated in this themselves, walking through the alleyways and the streets to ask people on the street if they're homeless, and if they are they veterans as well, to get that extra count. Programs that we have are based off of relationships with our other county agencies, such as the Department of Mental Health, our VALID program, in which we have our Navigator program, in which we have a counselor from my department, the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, goes out into the streets with a counselor from the Department of Mental Health, and they will meet the veteran where they're at in the community. If that person is ready to come in off the streets, then they connect them with the resources in the VA and with the County of Los Angeles and other partner agencies. If they're not, they provide them with whatever resources they can at the time, as well as information to say, when you're ready, call us, we're here.
Can you walk me through the process of a homeless veteran coming in and looking for shelter and looking for support? What will they receive?
I think that it depends on where that veteran, what door they walk through. What many of us have heard is the no wrong door process, and that's what we're really trying to achieve. We've been talking about it for decades now, but honestly, if the veteran walks into a resource center and says they're looking for a job and by the way they're homeless, we want them to call our department or the Department of Mental Health, and we'll have a team deployed out so that they can talk to them. Then that member will be offered an opportunity to work with the VA and get their health care benefits, first of all. They'll get their VA benefits through the VBA working with my counselors. They may get mental health treatments either through the VHA, Veterans Health Care Administration, or through LA County Department of Mental Health. Working with the VHA, they will assign them and give them an opportunity to go into transitional housing. And that's usually with a number of nonprofit organizations, whether that's U.S. Vets, our partners that are coming into Patriotic Call, or other organizations such as New Directions or Salvation Army. From there, they go through training and education and treatment to help them deal with the issues that that took them to the street in the first place. Ultimately, they'll be given Job Corps experiences and training so that they can move on with their lives. And ultimately, the aim is to get them into their own place and get them education and get them training so they get a job.
What we're seeing is a large influx of young veterans going to college, going to school.
Right.
Cal State LA, I think we've got approximately 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
At some of the community colleges,
Mm-hmm.
I found as many as 5,500 veterans.
Huge numbers.
Unbelievable numbers.
Right.
How is LA County prepared to take care of all these veterans coming home?
That's a great question. I think that I think the answer is we cannot do it all by ourselves. It has to be a partnership, and that's what we were talking about. There's no wrong door. Whether that person talks to a counselor at their community college or talks to a vet friend and ends up at our offices in downtown Los Angeles, what we're hoping to do is to provide services on campus. Most universities and colleges and tech schools will have a vet club or a vet office. And these are resource centers that are staffed and provide connection for the veterans with other vets as well as with other community agencies and government agencies to meet their needs. Again, no one group, no one sector can do it all. The government can't do it all for our vets. There's just too many, nor can the nonprofit or the civilian community. And we don't expect the universities and colleges to do it all on their own either. The most important thing that I would say is that we have to work in group, in unison, to help the veteran as individuals as well as a community.
I know your department places many of your counselors in a variety of locations, depending upon the demand. People on some of the college campuses have asked me, is it possible for them to have memorandums of understanding with the federal department of the VA so they can get staff of the federal agencies of the VA placed on college campuses? Is that doable?
So you're talking about the federal government versus the state or the county
Correct.
government. And that, I think that's a relationship that they have to build with whether they're talking about the VBA or the VHA. Again, when you talk about the VA, you have to think of it as a three-legged stool. The VA is there to service all veterans. You have one leg which deals with cemetery and burials. You have one that deals with benefits, and that is educational and home loans and others. And then you have one that deals with solely the healthcare side of it all. And so, depending on the needs of that community, and many of them are looking at creating relationships with the healthcare side so that they can have a clinic on board. And if the regional offices in their area have resources available, they're looking for those opportunities to reach out to the veterans and bring them into the VA system, as well as the veterans are looking for those resources themselves, because a lot of our young vets or even returning older vets that are returning back to school are looking for those additional resources. And so, yes, it is possible, it is doable if the resources are there. The one thing I would caution all of us to do is to think about whether or not those resources are there. The VBA, the benefit side of the house, has been working very hard to try to deal with the backload. We heard for years as community members that there was a backload of claims. For the last 2 years, they've been pushing to update their systems, create a faster processing of veterans' claims. It used to take years, now it's taking months, and they're trying to bring it down even further. They're focusing on just working on claims, not necessarily sending out claims officers to the field. That's what my staff does. Again, working in partnership with other agencies and organizations. And we're not the only ones. Veteran service organizations such as the American Legion, Vietnam Vets of America, and others have counselors that are accredited that will go into the community and help veterans sign up for their claims so that they can receive their veteran benefits. And that's really important to know. Our claims officers are out in the field. We have 13 different community offices out in the field. We try to have one stationed at least every VA facility, so at Long Beach, West Los Angeles, at the Vet Center in West Los Angeles, at the Culver City and in the Valley, and others. So I would just encourage your viewers to look online. We're at mva.lacounty.gov, and you can see the locations as well as a calendar of events that are going on in our community.
What are the needs of your department at present time?
For our department?
Your department.
Manpower, because we have a growing community of veterans in our area, so we're looking for claims officers, and anybody that's interested in working for us or with us can look on the LA County website under Human Resources, and there's a listing, so they would just go onto that site. They could put in the keyword veterans, and we'll see all the opportunities that are in our area. Beyond those specific jobs that are highly trained jobs and positions, we're looking for volunteers, because we are growing in our not only in our department, but the fact that we have the new Bob Hope Patriotic Hall, newly renovated Bob Hope Patriotic Hall. We're looking for volunteers to come in to help lead our veterans through the process throughout the building, because we're 10 stories high, and we're going to have a number of agencies within the building. So we want to be able to give a warm handoff, if you will, if a veteran comes in and is a little confused on where to find things, to have somebody walk with them. That's going to be really important for us.
What can we as a community do to facilitate your objectives?
I would say get out there and talk to as many people as possible, and let everyone know, because you never know who's a veteran. Again, a lot of our veterans don't wear the cap. We don't wear our pins, and so to be able to say, if you've served or if you know someone that served, there's opportunities and resources at Bob Hope Patriotic Hall. If you know somebody that served, there are resources at the different VA centers. If you're interested in helping somebody that served, there are opportunities at Bob Hope Patriotic Hall to help those men and women who are coming back from the war, who have served in the past.
How far does your department extend to assist the families of some of the veterans returning?
You know, it's almost cradle to grave. Our department is responsible for helping develop claims for a veteran. So a veteran walks in and says, I just came out of the military and I have a bad knee. We'll sit down and we'll go through the process of looking at all the documentation. But oftentimes we'll see a veteran walk in with a family, with young children. It's not unusual. I'll give you the example that I experienced. I walked in on my first day into the county office, and there was a young man and his young wife and 4 young children, and they had just come out of the military and didn't have a place to stay, didn't have a job, were running out of money, so they didn't know about how much food they would have. So we connected them. This is not part of our responsibility, but it's our moral responsibility. We connected them with community agencies to find them housing. We connected them with a community agency that had food and that had transitional housing, that had clothing for the children, a few toys for the kids. We were connecting them with resources. And we're not the only agency that does that. Obviously, we're here to talk about LA County Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, but I like to say that we can't do this on our own. It was through a relationship with other agencies and organizations that we were able to clothe them, feed them, ultimately get that gentleman a job. His wife decided she wanted to go back to work, and she found her job before he was able to find his, so they were able to support the family that much faster. And that's what we're looking for. And I mentioned the grave because we also help with burials and getting information for the family members once the veteran has passed, connecting them with the veteran affairs cemetery side. We have a national cemetery in our community. We have actually 2. We have one in West Los Angeles, and our other national cemetery is in Riverside, so within reasonable distance, and we'll connect them with that. The other service that we provide is for indigent veterans. So it's not uncommon, and it's a growing need that we're finding veterans that either the family cannot provide for their funeral services or they have no living family. And so the county will provide those services. And our department is responsible for ensuring that that veteran finds his final resting place at Riverside National Cemetery.
Some of the veterans returning do speak English, but their families don't.
Right.
How do you handle that?
Well, we connect them with, again, we work with our partner agencies to be able to find an interpreter to share with that family member the resources that they're looking for.
How many of your staff are bilingual?
You know, I think we have probably half of our staff standing right now are bilingual, depending on the language that we're talking about. Largely Spanish, but we do have Tagalog as well.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent. What differences do you find in the groups of veterans returning? Second World War, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. Do you see distinguishing differences between each group?
I'm sure our counselors could speak to this better than I, but I would say that as we grow older, our needs grow longer. We find that you know, what was once a knee problem, and that's all they needed, that's the only issue that a veteran may have had, and they felt, well, I don't need to go ahead and go for my VA benefits. I'll leave that for somebody that really got hurt. And so they wait and they don't talk to anybody, and then they find out they have a bad hip, they have a bad ankle. All these things that are connected to that one knee has now grown into something much larger, and we'll see them at that point. The Vietnam vets, we weren't seeing a lot of Vietnam vets right after Vietnam, but that's starting to grow now. Largely because the younger community, and you're talking about differences, the younger community is willing to talk about, and they recognize that these resources are there and that they're being welcomed back in. Where the Vietnam community may not have felt welcomed when they came back out of service, this newer generation does. And because of them, we're seeing Vietnam vets that are willing to take that challenge and walk into the doorway of the VA or our offices. You know, I never thought I would do this, or I wasn't sure about this, but my buddy is doing it now, and so I'm going to check it out. But with any of the veterans, even with the female veterans, if they don't feel welcomed, we won't see them again. So that's why it's so important, and I think why our staff is so dedicated about giving the best quality of care possible with every single veteran, every single time, because we don't want to lose their trust. There's nothing worse than having a veteran come in because they're testing the waters, they're going to see whether or not you're going to provide them with what you say you're going to provide them with, and then they feel dishonored for one reason or another.
Regarding the female veteran, what are treatments, or what are you doing for those that have suffered battlefield sexual trauma?
Yeah, the military sexual trauma or battlefield sexual trauma is something that we know and have been following for too many years, unfortunately. What we've recognized within our department, again, is that we didn't have anything for the female veterans. I'm going to take a step back. We recognize that there are a number of men that have suffered from MST and are survivors of MST. We are starting with the female community because the percentage is so much higher. 1 out of every 5 female veterans self-identify as a victim or a survivor of military sexual trauma. If you're a guardsman, that percentage goes to 1 out of every 3. And so with that, we're going to start with that. And we have a relationship, again, with the Department of Mental Health to have our veterans seen through them. We also have a great working relationship with the Women's Clinic of West LA and Long Beach that will work with them specifically on the issue, around an issue of military sexual trauma or MMST. We also recognize that many of them will feel comfortable only talking to another woman. And so we have a female veteran who is on staff right now as a VIP counselor. And VIP is a veteran internship program. So she's in as an intern now, and she's training to be a counselor. At the same time, she's seeing our female vets and anyone who feels more comfortable speaking only to a female.
Do you have counseling groups for those women that have suffered female sexual trauma?
We want to make
Sexual
sure
trauma?
that what we do well, we do what we do, and we're going to do it well. Let me rephrase that. That means that we are not counselors. And so we have partnerships with organizations and agencies that are counselors, licensed counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists. So if that veteran feels more comfortable seeing somebody outside the VA system, we have Department of Mental Health. We have partnerships with the Soldiers Projects, who is a wonderful group, nonprofit group that works with pro bono psychologists all across this nation. A veteran can walk in and be assigned to a psychologist and be seen. And the only qualifications is they have to be an OEF, OIF vet who has seen combat. They're not going to be challenged on whether, in fact, they did see combat. They're not going to be. Their information is going to be kept in confidentiality as well. And that's true about any a facility or organization that they're going to see, but oftentimes we'll find veterans that feel a little uncomfortable about seeing the VA. That said, we have those relationships as well, so that the first choice we always say is, have you seen a veteran, a counselor through the VA? Because when they're putting in their claims process, all of that, all their paperwork, all of their documentation is all together. So that's why it makes sense. If that veteran feels comfortable and finds a home there with the VA, great. If they don't, they're not comfortable, they choose not to use that, we have other options as well.
Do you find a distinctive difference between those that are National Guard, that were reservists, or active military from the returning back from the wars?
In terms of military sexual trauma, or are we talking about claims in
both.
general? I think in terms
general
of,
and military sexual trauma.
well, in terms of military sexual trauma, we know that based off of surveys that the VA has done, that's where we have the 1 out of every 3 female veterans recognize them or identify as that. In terms of other traumas, they seem to run very similar to their counterparts with the active duty and reserve side of the other defenses.
If we as organizations or the public could do something to bring resources to you regarding manpower, what should we do?
Bring resources to the Department of Military and Veteran
Correct.
Affairs. Again, I think the resources that we're looking for primarily are, first and foremost, we're looking for the volunteer to be able to work with veterans one-on-one and bring them through our process. If there are resources out there, such as nonprofit organizations that haven't already connected with the county, then that's just a matter of a phone call, giving us a call at our offices. And our office number is 213-765. Excuse me. Our office number is 213-765-9225, and that'll take you to my office. And we would like to talk about and create a relationship for opportunities to meet with veterans in the community as well.
Could you please repeat that number for our listening audience?
Our number is area code 213-765-9225. You can also find us on the web. With our website is mva.lacounty.gov, or you can find us on Facebook. Just Google Facebook, LA County Department of Military and Veteran Affairs.
So if you, the public, want to help a veteran returning back from the wars, please look it up on Facebook, call the County of Military and Veterans Affairs, and get involved. Save a vet.
Thank you.
Thanks
so
for
much.
being here.